Okay, welcome back. Let's wrap this thing up. So what I want to do right now is I want to get these eye shapes and be using these copies of these to create a hole in the orange so that the black can come through. And the same thing will go with these eyeballs. I'm going to use these eyeballs and make a pathfinder through the eyes so that the black comes through, and it's a more efficient way to go. Now the thing is that we're trying to get every color on its own layer, and right now that's not going to work, because if you see the black outline on the green, I can't get that to show because I want the black to be all on one layer, and this is above the orange layer. So we're going to do an offset path of both of these, and two shapes behaving like one shape is a compound path. Again, object, compound path make, or Command 8 as you see over on the right. And then I'm going to shift click on these two, and I'm going to do a compound path, Command 8. So now what I need to do is go and click on this and get rid of that stroke. And then I'm going to go to Object, Path, Offset Path, and I'm going to make a duplicate slightly larger. These shapes are what I'm going to use to pathfinder through the orange to allow the black to come through. Now, if you're on the offset path tool, if you hit, let's say you wanted to go to 5, it doesn't automatically update. You have to hit preview over and over again. But I don't like that. If you wanted to go smaller, you hit a negative number, and the same thing. Preview, click on this off, and then click on it again for it to update. But I'm happy with the 3. And so I'm going to hit OK to this, Command 8, and then I'm going to show you that these are still, again, they're on top. They need to be black. And the way that that's going to happen is if I make these, cut a hole in the orange patches, and then that's going to be perfect. So shift click on the blue, use the minus front, and then that black is coming through because that's the black background. That's perfect. Command Z. These two eyeballs, Command 8, shift click on the eyes, minus front. Now those are pathfindered and those are perfect stencils, and the white is just floating in the negative space. So now, spacebar, get the hand tool up here. I'm going to get this tooth and I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to put it on top of the white. So I selected the white layer and I hit Command F, and it put it in the exact same spot on a different layer. And so with this one, I'm going to do an offset path, object, path, offset path. And let's go with, this looks like it might be a 2. OK to that. And use that to define the edge of the cheek, minus front. And that did the job. OK. I don't like how this came out though, so I'm going to get the cheek here, and I'm going to do an offset path. See what 2 looks like. Too small. That'd be okay. I'm going to say okay to this. And at this point, I'm going to grab the top of the tooth here and make sure that there's an overlap here. This is my favorite part about this stuff. So I grab the cheek, and I'm going to cut it and paste it on top. And because I copied it, I'm going to be able to copy it multiple times. I'm going to need this shape twice. Command 0. So you can see what I copied. This is one big piece. I got this piece, I'll shift click on the tooth, and I'm going to define it with the minus front. And then I'm going to paste it on top again, and I'm going to define this lower lip, minus front. What did that do for us? It made this perfect negative space. Okay, that's nice, good craftsmanship. Now the tongue has got a dent in it right here. Do you see that ding? That ding right there, it's like a really, it's subtle, but people notice these things. Graphic designers do. Professionals will see that stuff and understand that your craftsmanship isn't what it should be. At this point, it comes with experience, and if I'm negotiating for a recent graduate and they're looking for a job, I know that because of this, I'm going to have to work with them more. They're not seasoned to the point where I want them to be, and as a result, I'll offer them a certain amount of money that isn't that considers the fact that I'm going to have to train them a little bit. White arrow, clicking on this, and I realize I don't really even need this anchor point. I can go and put the pen tool over this, letter P to get the pen tool, hover, click on it, delete it. Command key, because the last tool I had was the direct selection tool, allows me to grab this handle and to pull it out. And that's sufficient. I'll be okay with that. Command Shift letter A to deselect. Pen tool still there, so I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to create this little crease because I'm looking at this and I just think, I could use a little bit of black in there. And it doesn't matter what happens out here. Just what's going on in here has to be precise. And that's really liberating. Okay, so I want to show you that I'm going to use this shape again to minus front. And there's my tongue, and I'm satisfied with that. So now this is what it looks like finished. That's it. That's finished. The only thing is that my layers are an absolute mess. So I look at the circles layer, and there's nothing on it, so I'll throw that away. And this is where it gets to be fun. Magic Wand tool, I'm going to grab my black. Black is already on silhouette layer, but I'm going to change that to black. And then I'm going to get the eyedropper, or the Magic Wand tool, I'm sorry, and I'm going to hit the orange layer. And the orange, notice that the tooth doesn't get selected. And it should be selected. So I'm going to double click on my Magic Wand tool, and the tolerance could be up higher, 40 perhaps. And there it is. It selects with everything else. If you want it to be very precise, like it's got to be the exact same color as the one I'm eyedropping here, your tolerance on your Magic Wand goes way down for the fill color. And again, you can go with stroke, you can go choose the same stroke weight. This is a great tool to understand the details of, and I'll go over that in another lesson. So there's all the orange, and if you notice, all of them are on 3 different layers, so I'm going to hit Command X. Click on the orange, Command F, and now they're all on one. So I'm going to get rid of the orange. Grabbing the green. The green goes on a green layer, but there isn't a green layer. So let's create a green layer right here. Drag that dot here, double click, green. And let's see, red is on the eyes layer. Double click this and rename it red. And what else? The white. And the white is all on the white layer. So we are finished. So what happens now? There's your black. It's all one solid shape. There's your orange pieces. Those are all just floating in space. Then you get the red, you get the green, and then you get the white. And the best job I ever had in terms of feeling valued and just being excited was a job that I did where I was waiting at home. I had quit my full-time job and I was sitting at home waiting on a completion of a deal that I made to go and start an animation studio in China in 2000. And while I was sitting there waiting for my plane ticket and everything to finalize, I got a call from an agency that saw my online resume and asked me if I could go work for them for a week. And I thought, sure, let's go and do this. So I went to the agency and I walked in, and it turned out to be a job called the NFL Experience, and I got to work on this huge multi-million-dollar trade show that was more of an entertaining thing versus a trade show. It was just kind of an expose on the NFL that was going to be traveling city to city. So I got in there, and it was a dream job. And I ended up working on that, and it was one of those situations where it was just beautiful because every morning I'd walk in and they would ask me, "What do you want for breakfast, Mr. Gardia?" And we're going to coffee. What kind of coffee would you like? And everything was just, picked up. It was really an amazing experience. And so I'm working on redrawing the NFL's Hall of Fame logo. And so when I was doing that, at the time, it was really, really sparse, research material online in 2000. And so I found something, but it was so pixelated. It looked like a brick wall. Stack of bricks. It was so pixelated, and I had to zoom away or zoom in with stack of bricks. If I panned away, it ended up looking, relatively clear. And so I had to try to figure that out. And when I figured it out, I handed it over to the art director, and it was only the art director, Ed, and myself. And Ed was in his mid-60s, and he'd been around the block a few times, and he looked at my logo and he asked me, how did you do this? And I said, I learned this doing vinyl material, banners and things like this in the sign industry. And he says, whatever you do, don't ever change. He says, I've never seen a logo so clean in my life. And he says, this is perfect. He says, and when you start teaching, and at that moment I thought, teaching hadn't even occurred to me. He says, when you start teaching, teach your students to do it this way. And so that's what I've just done for you. And I hope that you appreciate it, because it's going to make your life easier if you go about creating logos in this regard, because you don't have pieces floating around aimlessly. And remember, printers are going to look at your stuff, and in the real world, you get critiqued and evaluated on your craftsmanship and whether or not you're turning in a file that's actually conducive to the process that they're going to be doing. And you can either gain respect by saying, I don't know how to do this. I've never worked with you guys before. What are your requirements? Or you can go the slow route and try to pretend like you know, and that you just run with the assumption. And what ends up happening at that point is they look at your stuff and then they realize you've created more work for them, and it's not happy. They're not happy about you. So remember to learn to say, I don't know, and talk to people without the assumption, because every print place runs differently. Everybody's got updated or older technology depending on their comfort level and their clients. So be that person and have the humility to say that, and it'll put you in good stead with the people that you work with. Anyway, that completes this. And again, practice this, because I guarantee you this is going to make your life easier. Thanks for listening, guys.